but I had an interest in psychology, an interest in human dynamics,
Mhm.
human understanding, and I think that that part of astrology, I hadn't even really thought about that until this moment in this way. But I think that the psychological aspects of astrology, which we started reading about,
Right.
really interested.
Hello, and welcome to Story Power, a bi monthly podcast I created because I'm an unabashed story lover. Stories have had a huge impact on my life, starting with the family movie night discussions my parents instituted when I was a child. I want to share that love with you. As cognitive scientist Roger C. Shanks says, humans are not ideally set up to understand logic. They are ideally set up to understand stories. I'm making it my mission to not only spread the love of stories, but all the valuable things they teach us about human nature and relationships. We humans are emotional creatures, and stories help us examine our emotions from a comfortable distance. They also help us walk in the shoes of the characters to help us see the world in new ways. It's my hope you gain some valuable insights from my guests.
Hello, Story Power listeners. Today is episode 143, and I'm talking to Indra Rinzler, and he has a lot of things that I want to know about. He does a lot of things that I want to know about. So, Indra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lucinda, for having me. I'm really happy to be here,
Now,
and for such a warm welcome.
oh, okay, good. I'm glad that you thought it was warm. Um, okay, you do a lot of different things in the spiritual, supposedly spiritual realm, although I just think it's regular everyday stuff.
Okay.
But I had never heard of Vedic astrology
Okay.
or the Wheel of Totality. I have heard of location astrology and the Enneagram of personality. So I want to know, how did you get into all of that? And I know that you're going to be going to India pretty soon. So are you going to be teaching any of that, or just tell your story the way you want to tell it?
Uh, well, I mean, how, I have no idea. I can tell you the events that happened, but why
Okay, good.
and what it means, I don't know. It's just something, these are subjects that have interested me my whole life. I was mathematical as a child.
Oh.
So, or I could have done astrology in a previous life if you believe in that.
Mhm, mhm.
I believe in it enough that it's a possibility. So, it's kind of like an interest that didn't develop. It was just sort of automatically there.
Ah,
And I started it with astrology. So I moved to California in my a few years after college,
uh-huh.
and in the very early 70s, and there were metaphysical bookstores that we had never heard of before. I mean, never had heard of that.
Right.
And so I started going I was living in the Bay Area. I started buying books at these stores. And I got into spirituality back then and also astrology back then. And the Enneagram came along uh, almost 30 years later. The Enneagram was starting. I like to say, talk about a story. Uh, 6 points of separation. I got into this thing called T groups and encounter groups, which were
Oh,
happening in the early 70s,
oh, yes.
and I got into those, and it's like Enneagram was starting in the same way, and it was like, two doors down the hall, but I never got there. I never heard of it back then. And I only did that for a little while, but I had an interest in psychology, an interest in human dynamics,
Mhm.
human understanding, and I think that that part of astrology, I hadn't even really thought about that until this moment in this way. But I think that the psychological aspects of astrology, which we started reading about,
Right.
really interested me. And then location and the wheel are relatively new. Location for me,
Uh-huh.
location astrology, astrocartography. I got into. I had a client. I knew about it 25 years ago or 30 years ago, but it wasn't until about 5 years ago I had a client who said that she had had a reading, a location astrology reading, and then I thought, and then I happened to check out a website of a friend of mine locally that who's an astrologer who I know a very long time,
Yeah.
who became an astrologer, and I saw that she was doing location astrology, and I thought, huh,
Oh.
I think I'd like to do that. So I started doing that. And the Wheel of Totality is something that it's not surprising you haven't heard of. It's something that I feel was given to me by Spirit, and it's a whole modality. It's one of the most intense readings there is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a reading of the empty houses. That
Oh. You
all
mean empty
readings
astrology houses?
empty astrology houses.
Yeah. Okay.
All readings talk about, they mainly talk about the houses, the planets, the houses
Right.
that you have planets in, and the planets themselves.
Yeah.
But this is a particular take on the idea of astrology. I don't say it's astrology because it's higher than it's before astrology. Astrology is very mundane, and this Wheel of Totality is very esoteric. And so the idea here is that each house contains awareness, that on a mundane level, each house is a different aspect of our life. It's a different house in your, it's a different room in your house, you could
Mm-hmm.
say. We do
Mm-hmm.
different things, the kitchen, the bathroom, the living
Right.
rooms, the
Mm-hmm.
dining rooms. We do different aspects in that. And so the houses have that. But if you think of it in a larger way and you break up consciousness, that each house has a as a flavor of that consciousness. I call that an awareness. And the
Mm-hmm.
idea here that came to me, that was given to me, is that, and I didn't intuit this at the beginning, but eventually, not eventually, but further into the study in it, I realized that where you have a planet, you have a native ability to understand that awareness at whatever level you understand it. But the houses that are empty, those awarenesses are blank spots or deficiencies, and they really create it's part of the we know what we know, but we don't really have a clue about what we don't know. This is what
Yeah.
we don't know. And I found that to be a really incredible reading because there's no bias in it. I'm not making anything up. I'm just reading the energy in the chart, the way the
Yeah.
planets lie with the particular chart that I use. And so that's really interesting. I could tell you more about it. I could tell you more about it. You asked about Vedic astrology.
Yeah.
Vedic
Because I wanted to know how it's different than what is it, the Greek one or the Chinese one
Western.
or the
Well,
Western?
well,
Yeah.
Chinese is very different in that
Yeah.
there's one symbol
Right.
per year.
But how's
But the Okay,
Vedic?
so the Western astrology is the typical astrology,
Right.
and the chart is cast on tropical time, which is the seasons. So that Aries zero is March 21st every year, which is the spring equinox.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you take into so it takes into account the Earth and the Sun.
Uh-huh.
But in Vedic astrology or Indian astrology,
Mm-hmm.
sidereal astrology, we call it star astrology,
Uh-huh.
that the Earth, the Sun, and then the sky behind the Sun is different every
Right.
year,
Right.
and that is called the precession of the equinox. And So it's a 25,800 year cycle to come back to the same place.
Whoa.
And the two systems were the same in about 4 AD when this started.
Hmm.
And now they are 24 degrees different. 25,800 years, 72 years for 1 degree,
Yeah.
1,600 years, 24 degrees. And so the thing is, while you think you're a Virgo, I think you're a Leo.
Ah.
Okay, if your degree in your Western is 20, if your degree for your planet is 24 degrees or less, then it changes sign, and it is a bit of a mind screw with I thought I was this or this or this, and then you come to find out you aren't. But what usually happens is that something else will move into that sign. I mean, quite often happens, and so it's you might think it's sun, but it's actually moon, or you might think it's your sun, but it's your Mars, and most people can get their head around that. And it's a different frequency of charge, and it's not any better, or it's not any better or worse. They a different frequency. So like you have AM and FM. Is AM better than FM or FM better than AM?
Hmm.
Well, FM has a better sound, and it's a different energy,
Right.
and it's something that we can prefer, absolutely, but it isn't of its own nature. They each serve their I shall say their clientele, their listeners.
Yeah.
And so this is the same for this. I would say that generally people always ask the question, which is more accurate? And I would say that Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology, is said to be more accurate, but I would think what it is that I think of it as we have many different parts of ourselves. We have
Mm.
the one that's we have the coworker part. We have the with our parents part. We have with our kids part. We have on vacation, out with our girlfriends, out with our husband. We have
Yeah.
different outfits and different ways of being, and that that we express ourselves differently. And so I think of this as I think of it, and this may not work for everybody, but I think of that my 9 to 5, which I never really was my Western chart, and that my hair crazy is my
Yeah.
Vedic chart, I think for what I do with spirituality, I think that the I find that the and I haven't used the question. I started with this about 30 years ago. I had an Indian teacher for 50 years, and so I was pulled to Indian things, I've been going to India almost every year since '99, and so the Indian things. So I was living in a spiritual community that was dedicated to an Indian teacher, not an American Indian, a East
Right.
Indian.
Yeah.
So these things I've been involved in for a long time. So that particular chart, I find that frequency works well for me, and that's the story. That's that part of the story.
Yeah. So if you have a session with someone and you're doing a reading for them, do you combine all four of those or do you concentrate on the ones that seem to go with that person at the time? Because the
Well, you're
Enneagram is
talking.
a personality kind of thing, right?
Okay, so yes, it is. Okay, there are 9 personality types, and one of them is at our core,
Yeah.
and it's our core strategies. I work with when I was introduced to the Enneagram in 1999.
Uh-huh.
I had already gotten back into astrology, and I'd gotten back into Vedic astrology,
Hmm.
and I had been familiar with astrology, as I expressed, almost 30 years at this point.
Mhm.
And so in the first week in the weekend in that first weekend when I was introduced to the Enneagram,
Mhm.
I said, "Gee, this reminds me of astrology."
Uh,
And I found a teacher who taught me a way to see Enneagram. I was interested in how the Enneagram configured in an astrology chart. And then
mhm,
my
mhm.
teacher was a Vedic teacher. And he taught me the the planets and the astrological configurations, aspects to each other,
Mhm.
signs, houses in an energetic way. And I learned how to read the chart for the Enneagram story. And so, yes, people can do all of these in a reading.
Mhm.
I call it a life reading. I mean, if you want one, you can get one, but generally, people will have a life reading that will be taking you through the Enneagram story. Then take you through the Vedic astrology story. Then we take you through the Wheel of Totality story. And if you want the location, then we can put the location on top. I believe that the astrocartography, while the lines, uh, uh, there is tremendous value in astrocartography, and the lines have a lot of power, that they are energetic sources for us and important, and can be very important for us to know. The reality of it is that what most of us want to cure isn't cured by moving to a line. In fact, it could be,
Oh.
we can be debilitated by that line because it's too powerful an energy. I like to say that if as a teacher, in a role, there are students that want to be stood over and said, "Now, Johnny, do your work," and there are students that said, "Hey, leave me alone.
Right.
Let me do it on my own."
Right, yeah.
So those people, that intense energy of that line is hinders their progress to be able to learn their lessons. And so my approach is I call it to look at the baggage. So we look at the Enneagram, and we look at the Vedic chart, and we can even look at the Wheel of Totality, in order to give them understanding of themselves, in order to give them an idea of the baggage that they're carrying.
Yeah, so so I was looking at that because I someone had mentioned that to me about a year ago or something, and I was looking at one of those sites, the location astrology sites, and there are places where there are no lines.
Yes. So, it's it's a little bit like the Wheel of Totality, that the empty spaces also tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea that without rest there would be no music.
Right.
So I call those empty places. And for some people, empty places are where they want to be. I had a client years ago. I had a client who lived locally, where I live, and she um, she wasn't doing well, and she didn't have very good lines here. And um, she was thinking about going to her daughter in South Carolina. Um, and I thought that was a great idea. I said that there were no lines in South Carolina. It's a quiet place. And I said, there you can kind of figure out what you want to do. With the lines here, it's very hard. It's this image of somebody standing over you,
Right.
like if it's really hard sometimes to kind of relax in the gaze of other people. I'm using that as an analogy for the intensity of the lines. And those particular lines, not only just lines, but those particular lines, I have no idea what they were at this moment, but there was a combination of lines. I don't think anybody does well with three lines. My personal
Oh,
opinion, I never heard anybody say that, but that I don't think anybody does well with three intense lines right on where you are. I mean,
right.
okay, so there may be a few a rare person who really likes chaos, and it's just not for everybody, and so
Right.
and so but can they handle four? Can they handle five? At a point, they're going to reach saturation. So it's not only where they lie, and sometimes where they don't lie, and um, I have found that people's intuition is usually pretty good, that the people who move around kind of, either if they're line people, then they move to another line, and if they're not line people, then they kind of space it out so they kind of have no lines. And I've seen people do this around the world.
So, so yeah, if you combine all of those together, the astrologies and the Enneagram and the Wheel of Totality. I love the whole. Now I'm gonna have to go look at my chart and see where my empty spaces are. um, I don't know much about astrology, but I just think that it would be interesting to know that. Yeah, that just sounds like that it all goes together. And do you teach classes where you live and then you go to India once a year? And are you like when you go to India, what's happening?
Okay,
So
yeah,
what are those two things?
yeah, so you asked me about that. Yes. I did some teaching before COVID. I did a bunch of teaching, and I haven't done much teaching, though I have taught two classes in the last month. So maybe it's coming around again. But the thing right now is I have a book that's I'm just about to publish.
What's
I've
the
been
name of
working
it?
on, the book idea has been around almost my whole life, but this particular incarnation is almost 8 years now in the
Wow.
making. And so I do readings in India. The readings right now seem to be, I don't know whether they're dissipating. So so I I did a lot of uh, s- uh, teaching before COVID, and then when
Right.
COVID happened, I didn't. It wasn't really the thing, and since then I haven't really felt to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do a lot of readings, and I do readings in India, but the readings now are also kind of dissipating, and the focus has been on this book that I'm publishing that has been a project for about 8 years, that I've been working on this incarnation for about 8 years, and it's I saw the cover. I think we have the cover now. It's in the last stages. I'm reading the actual pages. I'm proofing the actual pages, so
Mm-hmm.
we're almost there. So the readings have kind of dissipated, and I did 1,500 readings in. It's only in the last 10 or 11 years that I started doing this professionally.
Mm-hmm.
That the astrology was always an interest of mine,
Mm-hmm.
but you say, well, you imply that's an interesting combination of modalities. And the thing is that this is a plan, it wasn't my
Mm-hmm.
plan, but this
Right.
is a plan. And so I have these modalities, and I'm happy to share them with people when
Mm-hmm.
they seek me out. And it may be that I'm getting a little old, and I don't actually. When I went to England, I came back from England sick, and I realized, which that was a big trip, but I don't really like that my nervous system doesn't do so well with the traveling. Now, you can say, well, you go to India. Well, I just go to India, and then I don't do anything. I just stay in one place.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy, and my body is strong enough that India, after so many years, the germs, I can handle what happens there. But
Mm-hmm.
this English trip, it's interesting. From California, the jet lag was difficult, that I could never quite adjust at the other end, and I think that really wore me down. So it was a little bit there. But anyways, my point being that I did it. I went to the conference and I gave my talk,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be all that I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
that I
You
kind
mean
of
the conference
failed.
in England?
The conference in England
Yeah.
that I reached out and didn't get much. I got a response at the time, and it made a wave, and let it be. But the right now, I entered a new planetary period, and all signs seems to be to well, obviously this book seems to be happening, but other than that is to we get to a stage, the fourth stage of life,
Hmm.
which is the forest hermit.
Mm, I kind of understand that. Yeah. Because that's how I feel, even though I do a bunch of creative things, I do them all at home. And I don't go out very often. Uh, we do travel to see family and things like that, but yeah, since I've retired, it's just so nice to stay home and do my creative projects. Now, I want to know though, go back to your book. What's the name of your book?
The name of the book is Indra's Net, a,
Ah,
s- a seeker's guide to the human experience.
oh, okay. You're gonna have to send me the name of that so that I can do you know when it's gonna be published? Because I want to put
I
the
don't,
link in the show notes.
I'm very happy to have you do that. And I don't have a specific date. I can send
Oh,
you a date when I have it. I imagine it's going to be within a month, but I
oh,
don't
well, that's
have a
good.
specific date yet.
Oh, okay. It's because your episode doesn't even air until the 31st of December. So I'm sure it will be
Okay,
published before then. So I want to be sure to put
absolutely.
the link in there.
Absolutely. You
In
will have
the
that.
yeah. Okay, so is it a memoir kind of a thing or
Okay,
what?
so the InteresNet is actually a thing. It's a Buddhist Hindu concept that the god that the Indra is a spiritual name
Right.
given to me nearly 30 years ago.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, there was named after the god Indra.
Right.
So the god Indra in Vedic times was the king of the gods, and as the king of the gods, Indra was said to have a net. And
Oh.
that net was big enough to cover the entire universe.
Mhm.
And at each cross section of the net, a jewel hung, a faceted jewel, and each jewel had the ability to reflect every other jewel. And it's a concept of interconnectedness of all life.
Oh, I love that.
And so I used it as a backdrop to write a it's actually there are 78 themes, and 78 is, if you may or may not know, is a tarot card number. And so it's formatted. I like to say that I poured the book into a muffin tin. The muffin tin was the tarot card system. So I had written themes which are 500 to 1,000 words. They're like sort of like blog posts in their own way,
Uh-huh.
and they're all spiritual aspects of the spiritual life,
Mhm.
and they're fun. They're personal experience. They're ancient teachings. They're some travels. There's some just you know reflections, and some of them are based on a theme of arrogance or uh, boy, all the themes just disappeared right now. Arrogance, I remember, is one. I can't think of any of the others. Identity, I-ness, kind of
Mhm.
the theme, a spiritual subject,
Mhm.
and they have so each of these 78, they're based on the tarot deck, but they're based on the energy of the tarot deck. They're not
Oh,
based on good or bad or right or wrong or
right.
court cards. I call
Okay.
the court cards teachers,
Uh-huh.
and I've taken it into a very esoteric a format. Doesn't It's not hard to understand. I think it's pretty easy to read. But each one has a photo, it has a caption, then it has the theme, and then it has a leveling up section, which has lessons and
Yeah.
next step and higher octave and affirmation. So it's a
Uh-huh.
very it's a book that you could that I really enjoy reading cover to cover because it has such an interesting flow to it that I never would have. I mean, I had these themes and there was no way to put them together. And eventually I was given this idea, which I had always been into tarot,
Mhm.
and it occurred to me sort of early, but not as I didn't have the permission yet. I didn't have the wisdom yet to be able to put it together. So that's what the book is, and it's pretty. It's a pretty yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's a pretty dynamic book. We'll see what people
Yeah.
think.
Well, it sounds like it's only 78 probably chapters, but it sounds like you could read a chapter every day and then start over again and read a chapter.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can open it up and read one. You can read one
Uh-huh.
before you go to bed and open
Uh-huh.
it up.
Hmm.
You can read them consecutively, and they have a power that way. You
Yeah.
can use a tarot deck or something, and you can pick a card, and we have a way to make the comparison if it isn't clear which one is which.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think people would want to use it that way.
Yeah.
That's up to them. I'm not recommending it, but it is a natural. To me, it was a way to organize the material,
Yeah.
and of course, it taught me so much about what I had written, what I had already written.
Yeah.
It explained to me what it was.
Yeah, really. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think that that's what it is for writers. I can't remember who said it, but some famous writer said, "I write things down to so I know what I'm thinking and feeling."
Yes, absolutely.
Which is kind of the way I am. I write things down so I know what I'm thinking and feeling. But yeah, so are you independently publishing it or do you have
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I sent around to some publishers and I did some agents and I didn't get much response. But the thing is that I was a book publisher for 10 years.
Well,
So I knew about it and I was in a place where um, I was ready to let it go, but I didn't get much response, which was okay. And the
yeah.
reality of it is that I probably wanted to do it my way.
Hmm.
So I basically, you know, I found somebody who had an ability to do it. It's taken a while, but it's you know, I found my book soulmate, and we have persevered on this thing together for 9 months here. It's a gestation here, a 9 month gestation, to maybe even 10 months to get this thing almost launched, and I knew. Of course, I had to learn different levels, but I knew from publishing books that I used to tell authors that they needed to let go of that their baby, they needed to let go of their baby. It'll always be their baby, but everybody is going to, the printer is going to change it, the designer is going to change it, the art director is going to change it. I was doing a lot of what I was doing was children's uh,
Oh,
picture books on nature themes.
oh, cool.
So you had sometimes people would write and do the illustrations, but often, but also somebody else would do illustrations, and so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know you have to let it go. And of course, yeah, I mean, you know, editors change books and designers change books,
Mm-hmm.
God bless them. And so it's been an incredibly Phew. What
Yeah.
a experience I've been through.
Yeah.
All of the ups and downs and wow.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you're talking about because it took me 7 years to write my first novel. And that was just like that was just getting to the point where it was ready to be edited. And Barry was my husband's a graphic artist, and he
Uh-huh.
did the cover for me and laid it out and did the maps that I needed for the inside. So it was 7 years until then, just then, and then going through it again and editing it and getting it ready. Uh, that process was
How long did
driving
it
me
take?
Crazy. It took probably another like 6 months, maybe. So it was, I think
Uh-huh.
I published it in 2017 or 2018. Yeah, and so the sequel now is I've just sent the sequel off to my friend. She was one of my podcast guests, and she's a ghost writer, and she writes her own novels, and she writes screenplays and things, and so she's going to go through it and give me some comments. I'm going to try to find some other beta readers to give me comments, so I'm in that process of, I might have to rearrange it or cut things out or add things, I'm to that process, which that process takes quite a while too. So I commiserate with you because I know you're right. It's people think, oh, writers, they just sit down and write a book and it's done in a year. Anybody who can write a book in a year or two, my hat's off to them because I can't do that.
Well, well, there are people that do that, but
Yeah.
that isn't me. Well, I mean, the actual writing, the initial writing didn't
Mhm.
really take that long, but the evolution of it
Yeah.
took. It is
Hmm.
what it is. It's
It's,
a it's a blessed process. All that I've
mhm.
gone through and all that I've learned, and
Yeah.
we're not the same at the end than as at the beginning.
No, you're right. But I like thinking of it as a process because that's always, my background's in theater. So when you're doing a play production, you got to start at just reading through the play. There's like a table read kind of thing, and then you got to go through the blocking, and there are all these stages
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
of doing a play, and you just have to go with the flow and be in that whatever stage you're in. You have to just go with it and be with that, and let it be what it is until
Yeah.
it's time to perform it, and then that's a whole other stage in itself because you add the element of the audience. So
Yeah, and the dress rehearsals where you add all the props and all of the
the
look and
lighting
everything.
and the sound, yeah.
Yeah, you make it really 3D.
Yeah. Everybody calls Tech Week Hell Week because when you're adding all the last minute elements of the lighting and the sound and the or music, sometimes there's music. Yeah, that's uh, it sort of throws the actors off a little bit because they're used to doing it a certain way and then they got all these new elements that are added. Oh. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore, but I'm glad that I did do it because it taught me that one, collaboration is really important, and two, and it's teamwork and collaboration. And the other thing is you just got to take it one day at a time, but it's a process. It doesn't happen
Uh-huh.
all at once.
I was gonna say before that by the end you guys are like family.
Yeah, right. Yes. And I was very fortunate when we were living in Portland, and Portland has a very active uh, theater scene. And this at that time when we were living there, the city subsidized the musical, what was called the musical company, and they didn't do just musicals, but they did a lot of musicals, and it was semi-professional, and a lot of those actors, like we were sort of like a company. They'd come back again and again and again, so we'd get to know each other over more than one production, which was really nice too.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I worked in their costume shop as well. I worked in their costume shop. I stage managed. I was in their plays, and yeah, I did a lot of stuff with them, with the musical company. So that was fun.
So can I ask you a question? That
Oh, sure.
not to turn the interview around, but in terms of what I was just saying is how does it feel to then you have that behind you now? You don't do that.
Hmm.
How does that that feels complete and beautiful.
Yeah, it does. Although I have to say, I still I'm I'm a fan of film, and my sister and I started a YouTube channel called Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters, where we take one classic film that has a lot of relevance for today, like 12 Angry Men or Inherit the Wind, which is about the Scopes trial. It's a play based on the Scopes trial from the early, well, it was 1920s sometimes when that happened, about teaching, uh, having a law in that state that it was against the law to teach Darwin's theories of evolution. So we take one of those kind of plays or movies and we analyze it. So that's part of my theater background, is analyzing stories. So
Okay, so
so that part I keep. Yeah.
the love changes,
Mm-hmm.
it evolves and changes into
Mm-hmm.
a less strenuous,
Mm-hmm.
more tech, podcast,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, sounds like it's a common theme here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's developed into a way to do it, to have some interest in it, but
Mm-hmm.
evolved into a way that was more functional for now, and just as entertaining and satisfies the need. Isn't
Yeah.
so involving.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because that's also, I mean, Story Power is 5 years old this year. So uh that's that was the sort of the first step of stepping away from doing theater.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then the classic cinema didn't start until February of this year. So those two things, and then I don't know, I might write more books, more novels, or a memoir or something, but um for a while I'm just going to concentrate on finishing this second book. And then I do write blog posts and that kind of thing for my own website, but also I belong to Prolific Writers Life, and um, I have a couple events that I do with them. So I write blog posts for them too about how you can use podcasting as your way to market your book, which is
Mm.
a really inexpensive way or even free way to market your book, because I am not talking about things that I probably have empty spaces uh in my chart that have to do with technical stuff, and also because, like, I tried to learn how to market my first book and promote it, and it was like I would read the stuff and I would try to follow it, but I it was like it would evaporate. The knowledge would evaporate,
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
know. uh, um I call it my mind was going on vacation, because I just didn't understand, the steps. Now, if I read a story or if I'm watching a movie, I'm looking at the body language and the facial expressions and going, "Oh, wait a minute, there's something wrong here," because they're saying they feel this way, but their body language and stuff is not connect. I know that kind of thing. I know how to listen to people and how to communicate with people. But,
Mm.
some things, like anything to do with business, it's like,
Hmm.
I don't get it. I have no
Yes.
idea, you know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we can't do it all, and
Mm-mm.
why even try? But
Yeah, yeah. So for me, podcasting is like a godsend, because, oh, I can talk to people. I can explain my book. I can, when I'm a guest, you know,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
or when I'm talking to people like you. Oh, a question, well, as you're talking, a question comes up to me, and so I can ask that question.
Yeah.
That maybe comes from my teaching, asking pertinent questions.
I really love podcasting, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I think I enjoy being a guest. I've done over 100. I just think because it's very easy and you don't have to prepare,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so I want to use this isn't the right word, but free. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's organic. It's so organic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I love that people like yourself as podcasters that you put your ear to the ground and you say, I need to be a voice. I'm going to take
Mhm.
on the responsibility to be a voice.
Well, I'm not really the voice. My guests, this is how I think of it. My guests are the voice. And so I'm inviting people to be on my podcast that have various voices. That are related to stories, which that's what the Enneagram and all of the astrologies and your wheel of totality and the tarot and all of those are just stories,
Absolutely.
and they're helping us figure out where we are in our story. That's how I look at it anyway. um any kind of card deck that's like, I there are tons of them.
Uh,
Those are just ways to figure out what's happening in your story, in your personal story right at that
Yeah,
moment.
it gives us a perspective. It places us in terms of solid context so that we can
Right.
get clear about that helps us to get clarity about things
Right. Yeah.
and gives us perspective
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
insight.
Yeah, and I've met people who tell their stories in different ways, visual artists or movie makers or musicians who write their own music. Uh, all I'm
Poetry.
not. Yeah, I have talked to poets. Yes, I've talked to lots of different kinds of people, and I one time I even talked to a financial planner who started his own business because he didn't want to work for a company that was going to make him sell stuff to the clients that they didn't need. And but that's he's helping people plan their retirement so that they can be continue to be creative. So to me that was like, oh, okay, that's a good connection, because he's got his story was, I want to be ethical. I want to help people with their financial story in an ethical way. So, yeah, I've talked to lots and lots and lots of different people from all over the world, and that's been fun too. Connecting with people from different walks of life and from all over the globe. Um, uh, from and getting a new perspective from where they live and what they're doing. So,
Well, it may be a mute point, but I call you the voice. It doesn't mean that it's all of only your ideas that go out, but
mm,
you're the one that has created the mechanism to be able to share.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
why I call you the voice. While I may be the quote unquote talent, not saying that I'm talented, uh,
Yeah.
like you're as the producer, you create. I mean, it's like the guy who owns the theater, he's the one
Mm-hmm.
that makes it worthwhile. Shakespeare needed a place to put him on, he can
Right. Yeah.
perform, he can write them, but he needs what was
The
uh
globe.
the globe. Yeah, he
Yeah.
needed the
Uh-huh.
old globe there in order
Yeah.
to
And
to make it work.
he had to have the king's permission
There
to
you
do.
go.
Yeah, he had, yeah, to because otherwise it was illegal, supposedly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean now. Yes. So I've kind of created the structure, is what I've
Yes.
created. Yeah. Yeah. which that just felt like a natural outgrowth of what I had been doing before, but it's not it's in a different format. I'm still all about stories, but I don't have to perform them or I don't have to direct them.
Well, I think that's the beauty is everybody because I don't have to edit a darn thing.
Right.
I gotta send you a short bio, But I mean,
Yeah.
so
Right. Yeah.
everybody loves their position, but their place in life. One of the themes talks about Karen Carpenter as the artist, and sometimes you play the role as Karen Carpenter with the beautiful voice and play the drums, and then sometimes you're the brother who stays around and becomes her voice for 40 years afterwards
Yeah.
and has the memory, and sometimes you're the backup musician, and sometimes you're in the audio,
Right.
the studio music, the technical guy, and sometimes
Right.
you just buy the record and just appreciate it when you YouTube it
Yeah.
on YouTube and listen to it
Yeah.
and enjoy it in the moment. It's fun. They have I'm sure you've seen these. There's a lot of programs listening to songs for the first time and
Yes.
and they go back to I mean, such an interesting concept of people that we know nothing of, and they're listening to our classics for the first time,
Right. Yeah.
and it's a moment, it's a theatrical moment.
It is. Or watching classic movies, for the first time.
Movies, of course, obviously it's the same thing.
Yeah, it is the same thing. But I think it's really interesting because I've seen a couple of those, how blown away the young people are by the music. And yeah, I'm like, oh, I guess I never really thought, but there are lots of music from when you and I, because I graduated from high school in 71,
Uh,
when we were young, that there are lots of music that they have messages. And I'm sure that's the way it is now too. A lot of the music that's being created now they have messages in the lyrics, so they're going to be significant for a long time because
I've asked this question. I've had this question. You might be a good person to ask this of, but the thought is, what of our music, which is so wonderful, will they still listen to in 500 or 1,000 years?
well, I'm a big fan of the Beatles, and I'm surprised that young people nowadays, because I have the 17-year-old nephew. We don't have any
Uh,
children of our own, who said, "Man, the Beatles, man," and his some of his friends are listening to the Beatles, and they're like, "Wow, they're so great." And there are others of our generation that the young people are listening to and going, "Wow, these are great," and it's like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting." Um, because when I was growing up, I was listening to the music that my parents really enjoyed and musicals. We'd listen to musicals, the
uh,
music from musicals. That
mhm.
was sort of a thing on Saturdays. We'd turn on the music and clean house, in the morning. Um,
Well, but we're still, the Beatles now is if my grandkid listens to the Beatles, it's at least in their grandfather's who's still alive generation.
right.
But the idea that so it's like, uh, um, the classical music, I mean, how much more classical music was written than is
Yeah.
known or popular today, and if you go back, when I was in England, we went to the conference was in Nottingham,
Oh,
and we had a tour one day, which you probably would have enjoyed, an actor
uh-huh.
that he dressed up as Robin Hood, and he talked about Robin Hood, which we never really saw any Robin Hood. He's actually uh, uh, there's one statue and that's it in the town.
Right.
But the town is rather interesting, so we talked about that. But Robin Hood, he ended up telling us, seemed to be that there were minstrel stories that
Mm-hmm.
1200 to 1500,
Mm-hmm.
and it turned into this character of Robin Hood that they call the first superhero. He
Mm-hmm.
called him the
Mm-hmm.
first superhero.
Yeah.
So the Beatles are wonderful, and the Rolling Stones and the Eagles. You imagine in a
Mm-hmm.
thousand
Mm-hmm.
years, but I can imagine in a thousand years that this stuff is long gone. And
Well, but no, studying theater, there are at least, yeah, you're right. A lot of the Greek plays are gone, but
okay, yeah.
there are three playwrights that we still have their plays and they're still performed now. Plus, there, I'm using Homer as an example. Another version of the Odyssey is coming out. Now, how many versions of the Odyssey have gone
Uh-huh.
before? So
Okay.
there are certain stories, and I don't know if the Beatles will still be around in the 1,000 years or not, but there will be something left
Uh-huh.
because we have all these, well, we have the technology with all the recordings and,
That we won't lose it.
because part of the reason why we don't have more than three playwrights is because they were written on papyrus or they were written on stone or something, and they got lost.
Well, that's an excellent point. I hadn't really thought of it that way. And of course, some of this stuff goes back, thousands of years into BC. That we're
Mm-hmm.
still, you
Mm-hmm.
know, comes along
Yeah.
as something of value and something that we carry on the tradition of.
Right.
But the popular music, there's an awful lot of it, and to see, and it'd be kind of interesting that somebody that wasn't so was known but not so big, that some of the
Right.
main ones kind of disappear, and others kind of come up. Be
Yeah.
really
Could
interesting
be.
to be able to tune into the how much of it is still around in
Yeah.
a few hundred years.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we still listen to Mozart and Beethoven and Vivaldi and, all those guys, Chopin. We still listen to those.
So those are 300 years, that 400 years,
Uh, Now, let's see. Mozart was in this, I think they're like in the
1700.
1800s. Yeah.
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 So 300 years. Yeah. No, that I would imagine that certainly has a feeling that would still be around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Holt's The Planets, that one I'm sure is going to be around. Um, that, uh, I mean, there are so much great music that is recorded now, you know, uh, that we have available to listen to.
And the technology has been able, you're able to store it in a smaller and smaller area.
Mhm. Or we just turn on the TV and, go to Apple Music and,
Oh yeah.
oh, what
Yeah.
kind of music do we want to listen to today?
That's
Jazz
it.
or
Boom, you don't
whatever.
have to own any of it. Yeah, my wife uses Spotify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I would
yeah.
imagine that, I mean, Spotify, you would some or Apple Music,
Mm,
you would imagine that would well, I mean, maybe it'll have a blockbuster day, where it'll end, but you would
yeah,
imagine that it might evolve into another format, but the
yeah,
but the creativity, the data, the music itself, you'd imagine that
yeah,
it would always be there.
yeah. Well, and also we have we have the sheet music from way back when, Mozart's
Hmm.
sheet music. And so that's another form, the uh, people are archiving their, um, the songs that they write. The country
Hmm.
western people or the rock people. They're, they've written it down and they're archiving it, but it's also recorded. So you got it in more than one form,
Wow.
you know. Um,
Like a seed bank.
mhm. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, this has been so much fun. Do you have anything you want to say before we go that I didn't ask you or that you didn't get to talk about?
Well, no, we talked about a lot. I think I just feel to say that these are these are challenging times. That I don't
Yeah.
want to. I can't make sense out of hardly anything, and I don't have a need to make sense out of anything, let alone myself,
Really?
let alone the world situation. But the thing is that to try to find to live your life and try to find peace behind what's going on, and to get involved if you need to and feel to get involved, but also to not make it so big that you're not taking care of your own self and your own needs and your own
Right.
growth, and finding your own center and expressions, which a little bit of what we're talking about today as we get older and we change, that it I used to say that child raising, I wouldn't say this anymore, but it wasn't that it got any easier, but it just kept changing.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so the life here to have a longer view, story power, to have a longer view of your incarnation, your experience, and to get the most out of it. Talking to myself also, to get the most out of it as you can while you're
Hmm.
here, and
Right.
to appreciate every beautiful thing that comes into your life.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's a good way to end. Appreciate your life. Be grateful. Yeah, I love that. And maybe that's part of the message that I want to, get across is uh, be be grateful and look for the creativity wherever you can. So, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I hope you not only enjoyed this episode but gained something valuable to take away with you. If you like what you heard, please share it with your friends and give us a rating and or review. If you're a story lover too, I invite you to join my Patreon community at patreon.com/storypower, all one word. Or you might be interested in classic cinema with the Sage Sisters, a YouTube channel and Facebook page I started with my sister Celeste, where we choose one classic movie that we think still has lessons for us today. As you can see, I'm passionate about spreading the love of stories and completely believe what Philip Pullman said. After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.